welcome one and all to Kings of War Wednesday, episode 5, and it's a very special one because, as you can see, there is something long awaited in my hands. Well, it's one-handed at the moment because I'm also operating the mouse. So, get rid of that and look. Clash of Kings 2022 edition. A supplement for Kings of War. Spicy. So, the book is in my hand. I've been down to Mantic HQ. They've got big stacks of them there for sale as we speak, as I'm sure lots of people's local gaming shops have. So get out there. If you're waiting for it to be delivered, why not go out and just buy another one anyway? You can never have too many Clash of Kings. That's what I say. So, what do people hope for when a book like this comes along that's going to change elements of the rules, tweak units? You're hoping for, A, things that people brought against you that you felt were too powerful are going to be brought into line, in check a little bit, so they're not going to be so overpowered. You'll hope that things that you didn't use because you didn't see them as useful enough to get a bit of a boost. And things that you already use, you would like to get a boost as well. Especially if it's things that you take just because they're cool and you're aware that they're a little bit underpowered. So, with that in mind, the first impressions I'm going to give of this book are mainly going to be focused around the armies that I play and the rules that will affect them, because I'm qualified to talk about those, and the rest of it will come in the future. But also, there will be a Clash of Kings 22 update battle report featuring the Abyssal dwarves with many of the changes from this book in it, and that will be on this channel tomorrow, so you can look forward to that. Going to be very exciting. We've got a packed house in the chat already, people going wild in there. So let's have a look. Colin loves the troll update in Goblins. We'll get to that in a moment. Some people still waiting for their books. Theory of Zero, thinking of starting an Order of the Green Lady army. Is it worth it? Well, maybe we'll have a look at that in here and see if there have been any tweaks there. And Raphael, yes, there are a lot of buffs in this book. Not a lot of nerfs that I've seen so far. A few slight ones. Doesn't seem like anything has been seriously hammered with a nerf bat, as they say. And Raphael is hoping that Elohai get Nimble back. So, where shall we begin? Now, this piece of art you're looking at, actually, this is from the book, and I was so impressed by this that while at Mantic HQ I actually bought a poster of this art, and I've got it rolled up here, in fact, in this handy-dandy tube, so that's going to be framed at some point and put on the wall. But look at that, that's definitely my favourite piece of Kings of War art of all time, and obviously it features the Abyssal dwarves. Very, very spicy, but that's not the only picture we'll look at throughout this entire thing. I'm going to randomly go through pictures of some of my armies I think I've got in a slideshow here, so you'll be able to see those. But mostly this is going to be audio based, unless you want to stare at my face in the corner the whole time as I occasionally lean out of shot while reading the book. So, I've been playing Abyssal Dwarves the most in recent... I was going to say in recent months, but it's actually years now, with the slight interruption of the Kings of War season, shall we say. So, let's dive onto Abyssal Dwarves first, and then I'll look at Goblins and some of the other factions that I play, but starting with Abyssal Dwarves. So the one that we knew about beforehand, we knew a couple of things. We knew half-breeds gain Fury, which is nice. It's not paying for that upgrade on them, so makes them a little bit better, of course, and I still took them sometimes anyway, so makes them a bit more enticing, putting them into the list. Doesn't make a huge difference because one of their weaknesses is that they can get shot off before they get to the enemy, so it won't really prevent that. But it's nice, an extra rule that you're not paying for, why not? Then other additions, we've got, I think we knew about the Hellfane dropping in points and going to Rampage D6. So Rampage and Slayer, as far as I'm concerned, are the two big deals, even bigger than the big deal, which we may get to. But Rampage and Slayer, extra attacks against certain unit types. So Rampage is against infantry, heavy infantry, cavalry and swarms, I think. And Slayer is against monsters, titans, monstrous infantry, or large infantry and monstrous large cavalry types. So dragons, golems, things like that you're going to be getting extra attacks against with Slayer. And Rampage is on the Hellfane, which makes sense because it's got those big feet. It's going to be trampling the enemy into the dust. And so the points reduction in the Hellfane, in my opinion, is a double boost, because it's not only gained from having the Rampage special rule and its points coming down, it's also got cheaper for me because I now have no incentive to take the upgrade on it because of another change to the rules. So the upgrade that you could take on the Hellfane gives them a bit of wild charge on infantry, which they're Abyssal Dwarf infantry. Even with that, they're still not going to outspeed anything, so it wasn't that exciting, but it did give you Inspiring. However, now conditional Inspiring is gone and it's been replaced with just Inspiring across the board. So you can no longer just inspire certain unit types. You inspire everyone in the army, which means my Ironcasters, Basusu, who else do I take that's inspiring? Brachy, half-breed champions, everything pretty much in the Abyssal Dwarf list that inspires now inspires everybody, so I don't need inspiring on the Hellfane anymore. So I don't need to take that upgrade, so it makes it even cheaper. So it's now suddenly serious competition for the Greater Obsidian Golem for a spot in the list, or do I just put both of them in there? That sounds like a good idea to me. So the kind of thing you want to be doing with the Hellfane with that Rampage is going into things that it can just trample to death. So with all its crushing strength and whatnot, obviously you'd be looking at juicy targets like heavily armoured cavalry would be something extra spicy for the Hellfane to get into with the Rampage rule. Okay, let's see. Sean says, when in doubt, do both. Yes. So I think Hellfane and the Greater Obsidian Golem, very, very tempting. I can spoil, before we get through the rest of the list, that the Ancient Winged Half-Breed with the Overmaster on it has not had any kind of changes, which I think moves that down a little bit in the Abyssal Dwarf Titan pecking order. So those two, Hellfane, Great Obsidian Golem, a couple of thumbs up, which just get into the camera shot there. So, next, Black Souls. Fiery Bulwark upgrade option for 10 points, so they gain Iron Resolve, and it's Iron Resolve D3 instead of just 1. So, pretty good for 10 points on a Black Soul Horde, for example. I don't see a reason not to take that unless you're struggling for points. Sounds good. Black Soul Hordes don't usually just die in one go, unless you really get multi-charged. I'm not sure I'd put it on the smaller units, because they are more likely to die instantly. And there's a couple of changes in here that are changes from the core rulebooks. They were already changed in a previous book. So I think, for example, the mortar, heavy mortar, was already down to piercing 2, I think, in the previous update book. So don't need to mention that, really. And what has actually changed? So formations are back as well, everybody. Woo! For anyone who liked formations. And I can see why they weren't in the initial book, because formations, really, if you don't want to mess about with the rules too much, and you still want to give something a bit of a power boost without amending its stats, then you can give an optional upgrade for taking certain combos of units. So, the one the Abyssal Dwarves have is for Immortal Guard, 2 regiments, which is something I routinely run, and Infernox. Not Infernock, Infernox. So Infernox is the little large infantry hero that I use Arhak Soulbinder, the legendary miniature for, and he's a defense 6-13. All round pretty useful, but competes seriously for other really tasty options in the list. So you can take him as part of this formation with the Immortal Guard, and he gains Inspiring and Aura Elite melee for infantry only. So if you're taking an infantry heavy list, that's a spicy thing to put in there, and the Immortal Guard in this formation lower their defense to 4+ and gain crushing strength 1. So that's not something you would generally pay for with most units, which is reflected in the fact that they don't put a points upgrade on the Immortal Guard, it's just for Infernox. plus 35 points for that. So to gain Inspiring and an Aura to make infantry better at fighting. So if you want your Immortal Guard to do killing, now killing stuff, I do not have a problem with that in Abyssal Dwarves as it is. The Immortal Guard are always there to continue the theme of having really tough to crack nuts, if you will, across the whole front line. So them with the Defense 6 Golems and the Greater Golem. And I'm not sure that that upgrade really fits in with the way I use them, because I think all the other things I have in the army are already killy enough. So I don't necessarily need that. I would quite like to keep them at the high defense, but I will give it multiple tries, I think, to see if it's worth it with Infernox. I do like running him, it's just tough to fit him in sometimes. So, sounds alright. Let's see. Robert says, as someone just getting into Kings of War, I thought I would check out the new Clash of Kings book. Going to my new gaming club in 2 weeks for Romantic Open Day to try it out properly. Smooth. Sean says, Iron Resolve D3. Does any other unit in the game have more than one Iron Resolve? I don't know. Maybe? We'll see. But if they don't, then that would be pretty spicy for Black Souls. And I've only ever taken Black Souls if I'm running low on points and I can't afford to put regiments of Immortal Guard in, then I would just take a horde of Black Souls instead and save the points. So with that option it does make them a bit more tempting, unless I go for this formation for the Immortal Guard, if I want to run Infernox. The Ironcaster. Okay, so heal has changed as well. I don't know if heal has any conditional healing left in the game. We'll see when we get to some of the other lists, but the Ironcaster who had heal Hellforged only now has regular heal, and he doesn't get it automatically now. So that's gone, but he's cheaper, and then you can get him back to his original points cost if you upgrade him to have heal. So if you only want to use him for Surging and Fireball, then you can make him cheaper because you don't have heal in there. So why not? And if you want to make him a healer, then you just have to pay the extra points for it. And then similar thing with the Supreme Ironcaster on Great Winged Halfbreed. That's got cheaper, but you now have to, let's see, did you have to pay for heal before on the Supreme Ironcaster? I don't remember because I don't think I've ever used it. I always use it as the fighty version of the big wingy monster. So you can buy heal, and that's that. There's some more changes that were in the previous book. Basusu now has an option to upgrade a unit of gargoyles, which I think did exist before, but not maybe in this edition. Am I remembering that correctly? So, they gave me Abomination keyword, and I'm not sure what that actually does. I would have to have a look through some things, because a lot of the special rules that were keyword dependent have now become universal, like Inspiring and Heal. So I'm not sure what you would get for that, so I'm sure there's something in there. And they also gain Crushing Strength, and their nerve goes up by 2. So that is a pretty tasty upgrade. If you want, it does totally change the gargoyles into a different unit, really, because no longer does it take a mild, gentle breeze to knock them over. It takes more of a stiff breeze now. So they will actually survive a little bit of chaff shooting, which they wouldn't before. So you still don't want them to get shot. Their nerve's not that obscenely high, but they're more likely to survive just that single bow shot that could have previously killed them. And it makes them a little bit of a threat charging in now with that Crushing Strength 1. Especially if you can get them in a flank, which you should be able to because they're gargoyles and they're very fast. And your opponent shouldn't be concentrating a lot of effort into avoiding being charged by them, otherwise they're not going to go anywhere. So it does make them a different unit. So if you're only going to use them to just sit on objectives, for instance, which I've done, or throw them in front of another unit, then probably not worth the upgrade, but it does give you the option of using them in a slightly more offensive role, so they're a bit more of a threat. And Dravik Dalkan and Infernox are covered in here as well, but I don't think they've had any changes. I think they were in the previous book as well. And is that all the Abyssal Dwarf stuff? I think it is. So, is there anything that disappoints me, anything that hasn't changed that I felt it should? I don't think so. I think some people would probably be hoping that Lesser Obsidian Golems would have been made a bit worse, because I think they're a very, very tasty unit and good value for their points. So, Maybe some people would like to see them go up in points, but this has been described as the book where every army really is improved. So how that balances out in the long run, it's hard to say, because if your own army has got better, but so has everyone else's, it might look like you're doing well when you read your own section, but then when you actually put it out on the table, you might find that all the other armies are better as well. Because, for instance, the Hellfane gaining Rampage, lots of the other Titans have gained similar rules now. So, there is one thing that I can reveal is going to be used in the battle report that's going to be coming tomorrow. There is actually an item. There are two items actually. Let's get to the artifacts page here. So the most interesting ones that jumped out to me immediately here are, what are they called? Let's see. It's the axe of something, I think. Where is it? Trying to find it. Oh, there we go. Okay, so Axe of the Giant Slayer, there it is. So, for 15 points, individual only, unit gains Slayer D3 special rule. So that means you get D3 extra attacks when you fight big stuff. And then, the more interesting one to me is Scythe of the Harvester, which is the same individuals only, but Rampage D3 special rule. So, my immediate thought was, what kind of unit do I often use to just an individual that I use to help out in a combat, chip in, you just throw it in there and it does a few extra attacks to a big horde or something. And I immediately thought of Abyssal Half-Breed Champion, who already has 6 attacks, and is a good one to throw in there alongside a unit. They only take up that tiny little space because they are individual. They can charge 360 wherever you want to help out in whichever combat they're needed. And for 15 points, giving them D3 extra attacks against a lot of the things you'll want to be fighting, I think that is something that jumps out at me as a very good choice. So that was my takeaway from looking at the artifacts. Another one that's really interesting to me is, it's a heroic artifact, this one. It doesn't have to be used by individuals. Oh, this one does. Let's see. So Dark Lord's Onyx Ring, individuals only, once per game, unit gains regeneration 4+ special rule. So, individuals only, and the first time you take damage, you gain regeneration. And then it goes away after that. You can only use it the once. So, I'm thinking who would benefit from this. And it's tricky because most of the individuals with high enough nerve to benefit greatly from regeneration 4+ the first time they take damage are named ones who wouldn't be able to take it anyway. So if anyone knows of an individual with good nerve who could really benefit from getting regeneration and wouldn't benefit just as well from taking, for example, a healing brew, then let me know. Let's see here. Any other interesting artifacts that jumped out at me? Oh yeah, so the Edge Periscope. Infantry and heavy infantry only. This unit increases its height by 1 when it draws line of sight. So, interesting. If you're... this is a heroic artifact, by the way. So if you're running a wizard or something, and you want to sit behind your own infantry, and normally you wouldn't be able to see over them because you're the same height, then increases the height by 1 when it draws line of sight. So that means you can't be seen over the top, but you can see over. So that's quite an interesting thing. Also, potentially putting that on a mounted hero is the same height as a hill, generally. Because if they are, and you used a periscope on them... no, actually, infantry and heavy infantry only, so yeah, you can't put it on a mounted one. But there are... is there any terrain that infantry can typically not see over, but would be able to with 1 extra height? But you can see the use for it, seeing over units, though, that you're hiding behind. So, another one that was interesting, the Gnome Glass Shield. Individuals only, again, there's quite a few individual only items here. Unit's defense is increased by 2 to a maximum of 6, but after it takes damage for the first time, the shield shatters and its defense returns to normal for the rest of the game. So, any individuals that typically die the first time you attack them because of a low defense probably are quite likely to survive a round instead of dying instantly due to this. And it's entirely possible that because of the defense 6, when something attacks them, they might not actually take any damage the first time they're attacked. So it would continue to the next round. So you can't just fire off one bow shot and expect to take away the known glass shield from an individual. So that makes it quite interesting to me there. So those are some notable artifacts. There are some more changes to other ones. We don't need to go into all of it. So let's look at goblins now. Another army that's very relevant to me, since they're the army that I took most recently to a tournament, which did quite well with a troll heavy list. So I'm looking at any units that I frequently use. Let's see here. So Fleabag Riders, they've got a little boost to their nerve by the looks of it, which is nice. I would occasionally take Fleabag Riders. I would mostly take Fleabag Rider Sniffs, to be honest, so I probably would look at Fleabag Riders again with the increased nerve, but I'm not sure it would affect me too much. The lists I've been running recently have been very just heavy, meaty stuff, trolls and giants, so I'm more interested in looking at those. Goblin Slasher, amend attacks to 10. How many did it have before? Don't think I've used one recently, so I don't remember. Aura, Rampage, Melee, D3, Beast only. Okay then, because I was looking through here and I noticed that certain beasts, such as more beasts, have not been changed at all, which I thought was a bit strange because no one takes them because they're not very good. But you could give them Aura Rampage. I'm pretty sure more beasts must be beasts, mustn't they? So you can give a slasher that aura. So as long as it stays near to your more beasts, then they get a little bit of a boost. And okay, not bad. There's a little combo there. Giant, okay. So all the big Titan-y type stuff, well, most of them have had a little bit of a change with gaining one of the special rules. So the Giant has gained Slayer. So not Rampage, but Slayer, which is it's an extra d6 attacks on this one against big stuff. So giants now much more useful at taking out things like golems, trolls, other giants, dragons. So they're already pretty decent at that with their vast amount of crushing strength anyway. So now with more attacks, definitely spicy. So it does increase the randomness as well with the giant. So if you're attacking something that qualifies, you'd have the standard number of attacks plus 2d6 now for this. So quite nice. I was already taking giants and it's a free upgrade for them, so I'm not going to complain about that. Trolls, I was already taking hordes and hordes of these, so what have we got for them? Upgrade with debt packs, horde only. So you can't run these on the regiments of trolls. So this option, does it actually tell you how many points it is? Where does it tell you? Let's just read through it and find out. So, upgrade with debt packs, hordes only. When this unit suffers a rout result, all units, both friendly and enemy, within 6 inches of it suffer d6 plus 1 hits at piercing 1. These hits are resolved by the player that routed the unit with the debt packs. Roll once and apply the number of hits to all units within range. No nerve tests are required for damage caused this way. So, it's like an exploding... it becomes an exploding unit. And I'm not seeing a points cost for it anywhere. If anyone's got the book in front of them, let me know if you can see it. I can't see a number of points for upgrading to the debt pack for the trolls. So if I could just be being silly and totally missing it, or maybe it's not in there. So if I was going to judge that properly, I would have to find out how much it costs, but it sounds good. I wouldn't put it on all my trolls the way I run them. I have so many of them. that even if it was really cheap, I probably wouldn't want it on all of them, because some of them are going to be bunched together and I'd be destroying my own units a lot of the time. So if you've got a troll unit that's going out on its own, just straight into the enemy lines, preferably not going to get shot, just throw it right in there where it has to be charged by things. Bit of a kamikaze troll horde there. So interesting, but I can't see a points cost, so I can't judge it too much just yet. Kyle says it's free. Interesting. Okay then, that does make it exciting. So, still, I probably wouldn't put it on all 4 of my troll hordes, because I could see that going very badly against certain armies. But definitely worth it on 1 or 2 of them. I'm definitely going to try that out, because why wouldn't you? Just sounds like fun to me. Especially the way I run the trolls anyway. I usually just throw them forward as fast as possible to get right in the enemy's face. So why not? And then trolls, they're pretty tough. So generally, unless you're stalking the toughest units in the game, usually if they want to guarantee that they're going to kill your trolls, they would want to multi-charge them. So multi-charging becomes very dangerous in this situation, with that explosive affecting all the nearby units. So, very nice. And apparently an FAQ errata will be put out to update wording that finishes with "this upgrade is free." Nice. Okay. Let's see. Maggers says, surely putting it on the trolls is the true sense of being a Goblin player. You would think, but in my armies trolls are pretty much the dominant force. So it would be nicer if I could just explode all the goblins instead. But still, nice. And maybe it would give me an idea, because of course I want to paint like a 5th and a 6th, a 7th and an 8th troll horde, so I can run a nothing but troll army with like troll hordes, a load of bruisers, and then maybe some trolls that are maybe spitting to represent war trombones, something like that, a full troll army, and give some of them this, and maybe build like an explosive barrel or backpacks put on them. That would be a pretty cool conversion possibility. So nice. So units that I used heavily at the last tournament, giants and trolls, just some free upgrades for them. Can't argue with that. Goblin King, also something that I've used recently, but this is interesting. Upgrade to Groany Snark, increasing to speed 10 and gaining Fly, Thunderous Charge 2 and Blast D3 special rules. So it's a Goblin King that's a mini Wingit and gains a flight suit that has an interesting rule, which I'll get to in a moment. But he flies, Blast D3, Thunderous Charge 2. This actually sounds pretty scary for enemies. And it becomes a named hero, so you can't then put additional items on it, which is probably a good idea, looking at these rules. And when you want to do anything on the roll of a 1, the suit malfunctions, and enemy and friendly units nearby take damage. It doesn't say that the order isn't carried out. So, interesting. See, it just says the damage is done. It doesn't say the king is then not allowed to do anything. So that's interesting. So it's not so bad of a malfunction, it's just like a few nuts and bolts have fired out rapidly towards everybody, and then it goes about its business by the looks of it. And then the Wingit, the main Wingit, has, I believe, gone up in points. I heard someone complaining about that. And I haven't actually used a Wingit because I bought one and then never finished painting it. So I'm sure I will at some point, but have I missed the golden age of the Wingit? We'll see. So anyone who's used Wingits and has seen this profile replacement here, let me know if anything drastic has changed. And we've got some new units. So Grogger's Lug Lads. So I used Grogger's Goons back in 2nd edition, which was, rather than having any like feeble expendable units, I would have trolls and then Grogger's Goons as well, who are like a pretty tasty goblin horde. So let's see if these ones are similar. So, Horde, 30 attacks, hit on 4s, crushing strength 1, wild charge D3. Pretty cool. I think what made them good before, I think Grogger's Goons were one of the few Goblin units that didn't have yellow bellied. I think that was what made them interesting before. They're pretty expensive, 245 points. Interesting. Bit fighty though, compared to regular Goblins. And of course, they can have more pups, like a lot of the units can. So, spicy. And there's a spellcaster hero who... a spellcaster, but it has duelist and ensnare and blast and crushing strength. Okay then. What spell does it have? Does it have any spells? I don't think it doesn't seem to have any spells. Does it have a spell built into it here? When attacking in melee, if one or more hits are scored, the target unit has -1 modifier when rolling to damage enemy units during the next turn. Okay, so it's kind of like a weakness that you can inflict on the enemy by punching them. It doesn't work in conjunction with weakness. So, spellcaster. Can named spellcasters take extra spells at all? I don't know, I've not run into that situation. Yeah, Daniel is asking the same thing there, so that's something I'd like to see. Because I've not come across that issue before. Okay, let's have a look at the Goblin formation then. Gorps, Explodomatic Bang Sticks. So, 1 king on a Fleabag. The Bang Sticks, which is 2 regiments of Fleabag Riders, who we saw got a bit of a boost earlier for free. So, overall you pay 40 points for the formation. So your king will get the Aura Elite melee for cavalry with the Goblin keyword only, so for your Fleabags. And the Fleabags increase their Thunderous Charge to 2. Okay, so far that wouldn't sound hugely powerful, but whenever a unit in this formation, so that's all 3 of them, roll a natural unmodified 6 to hit. Resolve that hit with the Blast 2 special rule. In addition though, for each 6 rolled, the attacking unit receives a point of damage. But you don't take nerve tests for that, obviously, as with all the similar rules. So, might I suggest that the Fleabag Riders and their increase in nerve is to balance out the fact that they'll be damaging themselves if you take this formation. Interesting. So it sounds like fun, and if the Goblins are leaning towards they explode a lot, which it seems like they are, most of these things that I've been reading out here explode and either affect themselves or things around them, which is a cool way of going about it. Goblins they seem like a way less reliable version of the kind of technology you see from the Halflings in Kings of War. So I quite like that Goblins attempt to make all these things. They're just either, they don't care if it affects friendlies, or it's just so unreliable that it might anyway. It's cool though. So some nice changes there. The one that I'm most excited about is probably the Giant gaining Slayer D6. More attacks for the Giant when attacking certain things. So I like that. I was already taking Giants. Anything free I'm totally in favour of, obviously. So what else should we look at? Which other armies am I qualified to talk about? Let's see. We've got... Actually, I could tell you a little bit about the actual book itself, couldn't I, while I'm deciding if I want to go through any of the other armies in this one. There are some spell changes as well. So, there's that ridiculously nice piece of artwork that we've been looking at the whole time that I've bought in poster form. So, very nice. And in fact, let's have a look at some of my Goblins now. Because I had these lined up for a previous episode, and then there was loads of info popped up that I wanted to talk about. I think it was the Rift Forged Orcs totally changed the direction of the last episode. So I had these Goblin pictures prepared for last time. So we'll leave them up. There aren't any new tournament missions in here, which is fine because there's already plenty. There is a campaign though, with unbalanced missions. So if you want to play the campaign, it's not really something that I'm into particularly, but maybe could give it a try. And the Halfling army list is obviously in here, and I haven't played with it yet, so I can't tell you whether it's changed from the beta list that was out. So not only the Halflings in here, but also the Rift Forged Orcs, who we can look at. So let's have a quick look at those actually, because that's been on everybody's lips recently. So, all natural rolls of 6 to hit are resolved with the Blast 2 special rule. That's just an army special rule. So, exploding 6s sounds spicy to me, especially if you're taking these things in hordes and rolling a lot of dice. Sounds good. And most things seem to have Crushing Strength 1 as standard, most of the units, which is normal for an orc. But then the Reborn Legionaries, Crushing Strength 2, and they don't have a lower defense, that unit. So it's not like they're... Is it Orc Great Axe? Do they have lower defense than some of the other units? Storm Giant is an option for them. Interesting. That has Slayer as well. Slayer seems to be pretty standard for a lot of the giants, so it makes them more proficient at killing each other and the other big stuff, which is nice. But the Storm Giant has Wind Blast 6. Interesting. Anytime there's a spell on something that you want to be getting into combat as quick as possible, I always question it, but there are situations where that would be very useful actually. Wind Blast is I think through the last couple of editions it's been pretty underrated by people, because when it works, it totally messes up your battle line. But I don't see it as much as I would think based on how good it is. Don't see too much of it out there. So they have the large flying cavalry as well, the Rift Forged Orcs, and let's have a look, see how juicy they are. So, hit on 3s, typical number of attacks for large cavalry, Thunderous 1, Crush 1, Brutal, Life Leech as well. Interesting. Pretty cool. The flying ability and the speed is obviously a bit of a shift for what orcs are used to. And anything else exciting in the Rift Forged Orcs to look at here? Well, obviously all the units are new and interesting, but can't just go through all of them in this one video right now, or I'll be here all day and night, which is not acceptable. So let's have a look at a spellcaster, so the Rift Forger. Let's have a look at some of the special abilities. Arcane Smithy. They may cast Bane Chant or host Shadow Beast spell while engaged with an enemy unit. If they do so, they can only target themselves or another qualifying friendly core unit engaged with the same enemy unit. That is pretty cool and thematic actually. It's a spellcaster that actually wants to charge in to the enemy alongside the troops and then can still cast. That's kind of something that's lacking in other lists, isn't it? I'm pretty sure that's a unique thing. So I'd compare it to units that want to charge in with the battle line while also benefiting nearby units with auras, or examples from my games like a Troll Bruiser charging in alongside the trolls and inspiring them, for instance. So like that, but it's more of a direct boost to the unit that you're actually activating, rather than a kind of a passive bonus. Nice. Sounds good to me. And The Rift Forger, regardless of line of sight, is the important bit there. So you charged into the enemy unit, you don't have to then spin round to look at the unit that you want to use this on. So it's important that's clarified. So that sounds cool and thematic. I'm liking the look of that. Obviously they've got all kinds of units in here. They're all very spicy. But remains to be seen how they're going to do when they're unleashed on the tournament scene. Tundra Wolves, speed 9, nimble, thunderous charge 1. Yes, they've got all the things you'd expect to find in an army. And they're a theme list for orcs as well, so you can also take Skulks, Morax, Gore Riders, Orklings, Flagger, Fight Wagons, and then they have their own entries. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 units for a theme list. So you can pretty much take most of the things that you could in an orc army. No trolls or giants or any of the heroes, well, some of the heroes, but then you don't need them because you've got all this juicy spice in here. Very nice indeed. And there's a bit of backstory on them as well. Very nice. Daniel says, any changes to the fight wagon from the orc list? Okay, let's have a look. If anyone's got any specific units they want me to look at quickly, because I'm not going to be doing this video all day and looking at absolutely everything. So someone did mention the Green Lady before, so I'm going to have a quick look at that in a minute as well, but I will look at orcs to see if there's a change to fight wagons. If I can even find the orcs. Some of the units, some of the armies seem like they only got less pages than the others, but there's also artwork filling up some of them, so it's not apparent. Looks like Trident Realms have got changes to a lot of units, but I'm not really an expert on them to give you too much insight. Just trying to find orcs at the moment. There's orcs. Right up to Night Stalkers, who I will look at as well because I've studied their rules a little bit. So orcs, let's see, anything for fight wagons. Giants gain Slayer just like all the other giants and giant type units. Let's see. Godspeaker has changed. So, what is different here? Amend the tribal magic unique special rule. So for each core, regiment, horde or legion with the orc or troll keyword, within 6 of this unit increase the dice for various spells to a maximum bonus of 3. Was there a maximum before, and was it all hordes? So did it work with orklings? Are they considered orc? Do they have the orc keyword? War drum, you can upgrade it to have dread. And you can mount on a war wagon, increasing to speed 8, turning it into like a chariot. I don't know if that was already a thing you could do. Then, Skulks gain steady aim, and you can upgrade them to Skulk Raiders to give them Pathfinder and increase their melee stat. Gakamak amends nerve value to 1416 and points cost to 220. I don't see anything for fight wagons in here, so the answer would be no to that. Let's have a quick look at Undead, actually, because I've played them. Wraiths are irregular now. Interesting. Lycanis can get Aura Slayer, D3, beast only for 25 points. So if you're running Lycanis with a lot of beasts. Skeletons, you've got the option to give them two-handed weapons now, lowering defense, gaining crushing strength for a small amount of points. Anything else interesting? Vampire Lord on Undead Dragon amend points to 305. I think some of these big things have come down in points a little bit. Not the Abyssal Dwarf Overmaster on Ancient Winged Half-Breed though. Okay, Night Stalkers. So, what's changed here? Anything that was interesting to me? Butchers, I think, have changed a bit, so their nerve has been changed to 13, 15, 16, 18, and they've got Fury. So I believe they used to be, did they used to be Fearless before, Butchers? So they've got their nerve changed, but they have Fury, so it's a little bit of a downgrade, but I think they were very good there. Bloodworms have also gained Fury and had their nerve amended. So it seems like Did Bloodworms used to be fearless as well? So things that maybe couldn't be wavered now can, but they've got Fury. So mild downgrade. Shadow Hulk gets Slayer D3. So the Shadow Hulk only gets Slayer D3, not D6, unlike some of the other large things. So the Shadow Hulk is more of a precision kind of monster though. I think it hits on 3s rather than 4s for the giant. So it's not exactly the same kind of unit. Just similar role, but it's a slightly different way to go about it. Doppelgangers have changed a little bit. It may opt to use the enemy's profile for its melee attacks instead of its own. If it does so, use their stats, attack and crushing strength value. Magical artifacts are ignored. Doppelgangers themselves may still use a magical artifact as normal if they have one. Apply all bonuses and penalties granted by magical artifacts, spells, train or other sources after the decision on which stats to use. So that's probably a bit of clarifying there, because I don't think it went into that much detail originally. So that does clear a couple of things up, which is nice. So who was it that was asking about the Order of the Green Lady earlier? I'll have a quick look there and see if it sounds interesting. So anything specifically you want to know about this? Because they've got some new units. They've got a formation, Lurkers in the Lake, 2 hordes of water elementals, a greater water elemental and 1 devoted, and they all gain wild charge 1. And the devoted in the formation gets inspiring and aura thunderous charge +1 for waterbound only. So it makes them a bit more likely to be able to get the charge in and a bit better when they do. So sounds okay if you like taking elementals. What else? Remove the 1 limit on Radiance of Life, Sacred Water only on the Devoted. And add this rule as well. Channel the Sacred Water. While within 6 inches of a friendly core waterbound unit, the spellcaster adds 6 inches to the range of its Bane Chant, Heal, Icy Breath and Surge spells. And you can take Bane Chant for 20 points now. So, interesting. Anything else you would like to know? So, a nasty TK hero now added. Let's have a look. Where are the Twiglets? Here we go, the Twigletkin. So, new units. Blade Dancer Neophytes. So, pretty tasty fighty unit. Hit on 3s with elite. And yeah, no crushing or anything, but look alright. And another new unit. The following profile replaces Kindred Gladestalkers for this army. So, Twilight Gladestalkers. Elite Pathfinder Scouts, 24-inch bows. Dream Slayer Venom. This unit's melee attack always damages the enemy on a 4+ regardless of any other modifiers. So they just have the Hammer of Measured Force built in. Twilight Gladestalkers. Interesting. I wouldn't like to come up against too many of those with my Wall of Defense 6. Anything else you'd like to know from this? What are the changes to the rats, Eric says. Ratkin. So there's Ratkin and Ratkin slaves. For the Ratkin, let's see. Nightmares have gained universal vicious rather than only in close combat. Let's see. War Chief can now take a vicious aura. They've gained some new units, and let's tell you about their formation here. So, Ratkin formation, Smoke, Mirrors and Death. You need 2 Shredders, 1 Death Engine Spewer. The Death Engine Spewer gains the aura Iron Resolve, tech only, Inspiring and Steady Aim. And you may redeploy any of the units from this formation after deployment from both players is finished, but before scout moves are made. Okay, sounds interesting. So there's lots of changes to units here. I'm not going to go through all of them. People are going to get this book in their hands over the next couple of days, and the thoughts of the masses are going to be flooding onto Facebook. Probably a lot of negative in general. That's what happens when these things things come out. the negativity spills onto Facebook a lot. But have Mantic mitigated that by making all the armies better? I don't know. I'm not sure they did that much for Night Stalkers to get better from what I saw here. Maybe there's a couple of things I haven't picked up on yet. Let's have a look at the formation for Night Stalkers then. So, Doomhounds. 3 troops of Shadowhounds. All the units in the formation gain the Slayer D6 special rule. That sounds pretty good actually. Shadowhounds, D6 extra attacks against big stuff. Why not? It's not that expensive. Only 15 points total to upgrade 3 units. Cheap. So why the hell wouldn't you? Okay. I did actually see Forces of the Abyss here. So Flame Bearers. What? Flame Bearers, this unit is no longer irregular. I thought Flame Bearers were considered a top-notch unit. Well, that's going to be interesting. It'll probably interest one particular person I've been playing against quite a lot recently. Molochs. Amend the Despoiler Champion upgrade to read. May be upgraded with the Despoiler Champion gaining the Vicious, Melee and Brutal special rules for 15 or 20 points. So you can upgrade your Molochs. Tortured Souls gain Thunderous Charge. And Basusu, who is also available to the Forces of the Abyss, has the same opportunity to upgrade a unit of Gargoyles. So Cronius, I want to have a look at him actually, because people haven't been so keen on Cronius since it turned from a mega shooting death machine into a kind of giant. Let's see. Maga says a lot of the changes like Flame Bearers came in last year, did they? Well, okay. That's entirely possible. I haven't actually played as the Forces of the Abyss, only against them. So, Daniel says, a bit of a nerf for the Molochs. The upgrade used to make them fearless and brutal. So, Cronius. Amend his melee value to 3+ and points cost to 225. Add the following special rule. Temporal Ruptures. For each point damage the Cronius causes in melee, you may remove a point of damage from a single core friendly unit within 6 inches of the Cronius, other than the Cronius itself, to a maximum of 3 per turn. Pretty cool. You're not paying for that upgrade unless he had a points increase. Yeah, so some of these things that I've been surprised to see may have come in the last book, but the last book didn't get that much action, particularly, did it? With the whole pandemic hitting. So some of these things I'll be seeing for the first time, if they're not in armies that I would have paid attention to. Aha, let's see. Northern Alliance, Lord on Chimera, amend points to 310. What were the points on that before? That'd be interesting to know, if that's a new thing. And Frost Giant gains Slayer, D6. So the main thing here is that the big giants and similar units have gained mostly a bit of Slayer, and interesting, makes them a bit better. I thought they were already good, so it's a free upgrade, so why not? It's going to help a lot of my lists, especially when I get my Night Stalkers done. They Shadow Hulks with a little bit of an upgrade on them. Only D3 though, not D6, weirdly. Then I've got 2 Shadow Hulks, one's already painted, the other one's sitting just off camera here, so that's going to be worked on at some point. And I'm hoping that my Night Stalkers will be ready within the next couple of months for some tournament action. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Well, battle report will be coming tomorrow. Abyssal Dwarves, I can reveal that it's actually against the Twiglet kin. So if you're interested in seeing that, check out this channel tomorrow and you'll see that battle report in all its glory. Until then, let me know if you've got this firm book in your hands and let me know your thoughts. If you want to complain that I was acting surprised at any of the changes that came in before this book, then feel free to comment on that as well. Also, what changes didn't you see that you wanted to see in this book? Maybe something for the future? Anything that disappointed you about it? Seems like most players are going to have something exciting to take away from this book, with all the improvements to all the armies and new armies just added to the book. So let me know what excites you in here. Any killer combos that you've spotted? Do you think I've spotted a killer combo with the Scythe and the Abyssal half-breed champion? Sounds like a winning one to me, that. Let me know if you've spotted any others. And with that, I think it's time to... We only looked at this one picture, didn't we? Let's just go through all of them really quick. Here's my goblins. So if you want to look at any of them in more detail, you can always pause the video at your own leisure. Some lovely trolls there. Yeah, these giants were moved on to bigger bases for gaming in this edition, because the normal small giant disappeared and they're all massive colossal giants now. So there's that beautiful image that I purchased a poster for, and thumbnail up. There we go. It's been almost an hour, this Kings of War Wednesday. Robert just ordered the book and the big 3rd edition rulebook. As I'm watching, the only other big decision is what army for Christmas to start with, so hopefully the book will give me some ideas on what to start with. Yes, I think it depends on your play style as well. So I'm sure if you ask people in the Kings of War Fanatics Facebook page, then there'll be some valuable insight there. If you let people know what kind of play style you're after, then you will have all kinds of feedback flooding into your eyeballs via the internet. So everybody, let me know what your thoughts. Don't forget to subscribe, like the video obviously, and look at all the links in the description. I've got Facebook group in there, Discord server, all kinds of shenanigans. And if you want to keep this channel afloat in these dark and turbulent times so I can continue to act as a beacon in the lighthouse of hobby enlightenment and fulfillment, and righteousness might be taking it a bit too far, but the good stuff basically. If you want me to keep improving the hobby for everybody else with this top-notch, spicy, succulent, tender, moist, finger-licking good, dish-licious video content, then why not throw your life savings at me in the form of Patreon support. The patrons, of course, were being thanked repeatedly with that scrolling text at the bottom of the screen throughout the entire video. But I'm going to personally go and have a look at the page and thank them all by name now. So, special thanks to Roshi, Raccoon, Kim, Kevin, John, Guy, David, Cedar, Simon, Nippleless, and Brad. All of you help to make this community a brighter place in these turbulent times. So with that, all that remains to be said is... good night out there, whatever you are.